Hi there, and welcome to the Animation Industry Podcast. My name is Terry, and when I was 14 years old, I started making stop-motion animations in my bedroom using my grandpa's old camera. Ever since, I've been obsessed with everything to do with animation, and right now, I'm a student at Sheridan College. I created this podcast to connect with and learn from some of the biggest names in the industry, their best practices, the hardships they went through, and what to focus on to make it in today's changing animation world. It's my hope that by sharing this info that you too have the best chance of success. Now let's get started. This episode is all about how to break into the animation industry and work on kids' shows without actually going to animation school. And joining me to tell you all about how to do that is the super duper talented Ronald Stanage. Now, one thing you should know about Ron is that he's actually a 1,000-year-old arch wizard trapped in a 20-something-year-old body, but when he's not trying to break this curse and finally lay his ancient soul to rest, he spends his days storyboarding for television and drawing super weird sci-fi junk. So Ron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm super glad and excited to talk to you today about everything Cartoon Network and storyboarding. So I always kick things off kind of the same way, and that's what got you interested in animation in the first place.
I feel like most people probably have the same answer. It's like, me and my parents used to watch cartoons when I was a child. But yeah, I think everyone says that. But I think it's true. Like my mom and I grew up with like a single mom for a long time, and she and I would just watch like Ren and Stimpy and like Rocko's Modern Life and like All Real Monsters together. And I think that like I don't think I ever knew I wanted to work in animation until until I was like in my like mid to late 20s. I didn't even know that was like an option for me. I was like, I like drawing, trashy comics or whatever, but yeah, I feel like I've always had like an appreciation for it just because it's like what I would spend my time doing.
So why did you start drawing trashy comics? Was it a result of the animations you were watching, or?
I think I was just desperate to make my friends laugh. And I used to draw like this like kind of like I just like would rip off Mike Judge all the time and just like draw like really haggard looking like sort of mid like just like blue collar American looking people, and I just had so much fun making like high school friends laugh or like middle school friends laugh or whatever.
And then, why did you get into animation? Desperate to make my friends laugh.
Desperate. Please love me. Somebody. Yeah, I feel like it's not like I feel like that's why so many of us get into it. It's like we're just like desperate to please other people. Like, look, I have value. Look at me, like over here, and like then they laugh, and you're like, that feels good. Then you go back to your office, and you're like, I need more though. It's not enough. It's never enough.
Yeah, I feel that sentiment too. So you started becoming desperate to make your friends laugh, and then suddenly you're at Cartoon Network. But what happened, in between? Because I know you have a off the beaten road or beaten path story. So how'd you get there?
Well, I blacked out for 17 years, and I woke up at a desk at Cartoon Network. No, let's see. I worked as a bicycle mechanic since I was like 16, for like a decade, for 10 years or so. And then also I was working in a machine shop, like building bike frames and going to school for machining and stuff. Like I right when I graduated high school, I went to college. But I was like, 18 or 19. Like nobody has any fucking idea what they want to do when they're like that old. So I'm like, I'm going to study Russian literature because I like Alexander Solzhenitsyn books. And it's just like, do you really though? You read the one, but like I'm going to go to school for it. And it turns out that was it was fine, but I did terrible. I failed out of school. So they kicked me out. And then like during the whole time I was like, I was trying to get into the art school. Cause like, this is at U of A, University of Arizona. I was trying to get into the art school because a lot of my friends like, oh, you like drawing, you should just do that and like do comics or something. I'm like, okay, I'll try. Tried to get in, couldn't get in. It wouldn't let me in. So I kind of forgot about art for years. So yeah, right after that happened, I started going to school for like at the community college to learn like machining and like CNC programming and all this like stuff to basically work in like the aerospace industry. because it's a big thing in Tucson. And like I did that for years, and like this is I feel like this like story is like has like so many weird points. So I did that for years. Totally forgot about drawing. I used to draw people just like birthday cards for fun, just like super inappropriate. Like if I met somebody, like and their birthday was that week, I'd just draw them the most inappropriate, like weird birthday card. I think the weirdest one I ever drew was like a man on all fours, like diarrheaing out another man. It's like screaming "Happy Birthday," and I gave this to someone I didn't know at all.
That
Like,
you just met?
yeah, I just met. Like thank God he was like, oh, that's really funny. I'm like why? Like that's a crazy person thing to do. So like I was doing stuff like that for a while, but so yeah, I was like learning to do machine shop stuff, and I was like applying for jobs at like there's this like missile manufacturer called Raytheon in Tucson. I was applying for jobs at Raytheon. So like I was actually like really close to not pursuing animation whatsoever. If I would have gotten a job like in a machine shop or like in an optics lab or something in Tucson, like I'd probably be doing that now, because like I didn't know that animation was a thing until
Styles. Wow, that's a huge turn.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's like now I make children laugh with fart jokes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, super, like that's not like what I wanted to do, obviously, but I was like, I failed out of schools. I'm like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, shit, I gotta get my stuff together. And so this whole time, I was also like playing music. I was touring with a folk band with my friend Andy and a bunch of other people. So we've been touring since we were like 17 or so. And so like every time I'd have time off work or time off school, we go on these tours. Like kind of all around America. And then on one of these tours, we came through LA and played a show. We played a show with a bunch of guys with this band called the Manx. But we played a show with them, and it turns out like most of them worked at Cartoon Network. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like what do you guys do there? Blah, blah, blah. I like cartoons. And then they talk about what they did, and they're like, oh, you should come by. We'll give you a tour if you want to come see it. Like luckily they liked our band and we liked their band. We kind of hit it off. And so I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'll take a tour of Cartoon Network. And then so yeah, like one of them like met up with me, then gave me like the grand tour of the building and all this stuff. And I was like seeing like, oh, this is a storyboard artist does. Like, oh wow, I didn't know what a storyboard artist was. I was like, oh, this guy's like, what is he? Oh, he's a prop designer. That's so cool. I didn't know what anyone did. I didn't know that like I feel like a lot of people have this idea that like animation is this like magic pipeline that just like you draw the thing and then then the computer animates it and it moves and we all laugh. But it's actually just like it's interesting seeing like the moving parts for the first time and seeing like just like how many people it takes to just make a simple like 11-minute children's animated like bit. So yeah, I got that tour. That was at this point that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And then like they saw that I was just like, I think like the dudes who gave me the tour, they saw that I like to like doodle stuff. I'm like, oh, you should try to work in animation. I'm like, oh no, I couldn't do that. That's crazy. They're like, no, you should try it. So I was like,
after you gave them a diarrhea birthday card or before?
No, this is a different guy, totally different guy. Yeah, like that was another guy that I don't talk to anymore, but unrelated to the diarrhea.
I don't know why you don't talk to this person.
I don't know. I broke into his house and I left that card there, and he just never talked to me again. Yeah. So they kind of like these dudes encouraged me. They're like, you should draw and do this. And like I was still living in Tucson, Arizona at the time, and still working in a machine shop, still trying to get like aerospace jobs or whatever. I was like, you know what? That sounds cool. I'd like to do that instead of working in a machine shop, because I remember like talking to one of my mentors at the time that was like teaching like machining skills. I was like showed up one day like, oh, how's it going, man? Like, how are you? And he said, I wish I was someone else. And that was the moment I was like, oh, I cannot do this job. Like if that's like this dude's been doing this for years, he's lived through it, he is so depressed, and I was just like a vision of my future. I was like, I can't do this. That's a dark road. So at that point I decided to Decided to like I couldn't like afford school. I tried getting into art school and I couldn't get in. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? So I just decided to draw every single day until like I was good enough to like potentially apply for jobs. And then also like the Cartoon Network guy is like they told me about their story and they're like, well, we taught ourselves Flash, we made our own animated bits, and then we like, we would do work for other people's like shorts and stuff. So I taught myself like Flash and I taught myself like Photoshop and Illustrator. I'm very bad at them now. I was bad at them then too. Um, so I just like spent like every waking moment, like on my lunch break, at work, like on the weekends, like after work, before work, just like drawing every single day, basically for 4 or 5 years. So instead of going to art school, I just like did that version of art school myself and just drew every day for years to try to get better at it.
I
Um,
mean, that's insane, but also amazing. Like what was it like? Like what kind of motivation did you, I mean, you obviously had a huge motivation, but what was it like drawing at lunch break and everything? Was it enjoyable or did you feel pressure to do it or like
I
five
think
years is a really long time?
it was super enjoyable. I think that like it's really easy to get caught up in the idea like, oh, I got to do this thing. I have to do this thing to get that thing. Like I have to do like all this like hard work to get like the job in animation to do the thing. But like if you don't enjoy physically doing the thing, you're gonna hate having the job, and it's gonna take like like so. I think like I wasn't really thinking about like, and then I'll get this job, and then I'll be successful. I'll be a storyboard artist, then I'll be happy, and then I can die. I think I was just like enjoying drawing, and like I just like wanted to like be part of like I wanted to be a part of the system that makes like that makes cartoons and makes art for more people to watch, because like at the core of it I just want to make as many people laugh as possible. So I'm like, oh, I could have this power to like millions of kids will see this stuff that I could possibly make. So but yeah, at the core of it is just like I just like enjoyed drawing for myself.
Right.
Um,
So when you say you were drawing every day, like I've been following your Instagram for a while, and you're drawing like very cartoonish and stylized stuff. There's not like, life studies and like gestural drawings and things like that. So what were you drawing every day? Were you doing those things, and were you watching tutorials and getting feedback, or can you go?
I wasn't. I wish I would have. I honestly, I wish I would have taken some figure drawing classes. Like people who take figure drawing classes, like they just understand how the body works. They can like I need to draw this weird dynamic pose. Like, oh, here it looks like this. And for me, I'm just like, is that it? Oh shit, nope. Is that nope? Is that nope? And just like me drawing and redrawing, redrawing. It's like I think what I would do, like my daily practice was I would draw. I would like think of something that I hadn't drawn before. There's usually like some obscure like I go through like phases. Like I draw like mechs, or I draw like buff women in armor or whatever. But like I'm like, okay, what have I never drawn before? I've never drawn uh, a nude man riding a scorpion. I'm gonna do that today. I'll draw a cartoony nude man riding a scorpion. Then like the next time, what am I gonna do today? I'm like, I'm gonna draw a guy with robot legs, and just like but like that in and of itself is like was helpful. Just to, like I don't think I was like learning necessarily like that's how you draw a person now. I think I was just like it's just the sheer pencil mileage of that much drawing.
Yeah.
It kind of like
Were you
adds up over
getting
time.
were you getting any feedback on these drawings, or you were just using your own intuition to say like, okay, the proportions here are off, or look great, or like this is instantly communicatable as a scorpion and a naked man?
Yeah, I think that like it's like I wasn't getting feedback for that sort of stuff. I think it's really easy to like no matter what level you're at, you'll draw a thing that's like good for your level, and you'll be like, "That's so good," and then like you look at it a month later and be like, "What the fuck was I thinking? That's terrible." Um, but eventually you get to the point where like, oh yeah, you can recognize, oh, the proportions are wrong, his foot's too big, whatever. But like, so I wasn't getting feedback on that sort of stuff. But what I was doing this whole time was I was taking like when I met my Cartoon Network buddies, um, one of them was a storyboard artist, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to storyboard, because you're the one writing, like you're writing and you're drawing, you're doing all these funny poses, like that's where I belong. Because like I'm not an incredible artist. Like I don't think I'm good enough to be a designer or like a background painter, or like I don't understand color theory. I'm like I am like my skills are very rudimentary, but I do know how to make people laugh. That's like the one thing I know how to do. So I see him doing like working on this stuff, and just like he's the joke guy, he makes the funny poses. So I was like, that's what I want to do. So I was very fortunate. He would send me like storyboard tests that were circulating around Cartoon Network for shows. Like obviously not because I was actually like being considered for these positions, but he's like, hey, here, try this test, and then like see how you do. So I think the first test I ever took, like the first test I ever took was for like it was like for Uncle Grandpa, I think, and like I like penciled every panel and I like preciously inked every Uncle Grandpa, every pose like so perfectly, and I broke every rule, like every single rule. I didn't know any of the storyboarding rules, and then um, the friend is Mike Chillian. Mike Chillian, he's the like, and he like I show like he came into like actually his band came to Tucson. I was like, Mike, I finished it. I finished my Uncle Grandpa test he sent me. Um, and and it was like the panels are beautiful. He's like, why would you do this? Like he's very sweet. He's like these panels all look incredible, but like you don't like storyboarding isn't about this like perfect delicate like lines. Like you're supposed to just get like the I think the things are like proportion, gesture, perspective. Those are the three things you're supposed to worry about. And I was just like I was more worried about like the like it looking on model and perfect, and I was less concerned about the writing. And then I didn't know any of the rules, so he would break it down like, okay, well, you get like a red shark. We were like at a restaurant or something like in Tucson, like, and he's there for like just the morning because he played a show earlier that day or that night. And he just like circled stuff with a sharpie, like, oh, this is wrong, and you did this, you're like, this is good, but like you don't need to do this. And so like I was getting feedback from him, which is super helpful. I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning him, but yeah, he's like so like I like and he did the same thing for the the storyboard for our short, for the Nickelodeon short. I remember showing him the storyboard, and he would give me like a little some pointers here and there. But like so I would do like yeah storyboard tests that I could get my hands on. You can also like Google like Adventure Time storyboard test, or Google like any show you could think of. Google blah, 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 storyboard test, and you can usually find the storyboard test online, especially if it's like if it's under NDA, then like you probably can't. But like like I think at the time like Uncle Grandpa was done, or like it wasn't like NDA stuff anymore. And like doing those in your spare time, I think is like super super helpful. Like so that's what I spent a lot of my time doing. It was like just drawing for myself and then just doing storyboard tests just for the sake of like doing them, but being able to show them to somebody who could say like, oh, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. That was like very very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that's kind of like very convoluted like roundabout answer, but
No, I love listening to these stories. Like the more stories of professionals that I hear, the more like roundabout ways and weird connections and things they had, and it all comes together. Like it's really, I don't know, I really enjoy listening to these things. So 5 years is a long time. Did you reach a point where you're like, I'm ready now, or were you like constantly applying and like sending stuff out there to see if the world was gonna reciprocate and be like, hey, you should come be a storyboardist now, or were you like, I'm ready, Cartoon Network, hey, hit me up when you have a position available, like hire me type of thing, or
I think
how do you?
everybody thinks they're ready before they truly are, because you're like, that last one I did was really good. I'm so close to getting it, and like I think that's the drive that kind of keeps like pushes you forward. But like you're ready when people like when you get a job, like when someone offers you a job, then you're like that's the only point in which you're ready, and even then you're like flying by the seat of your pants. But I do remember the moment where I was like, okay, I should try to do this. I should go like just like full bore into this. Like so, this whole time, still working, still a bike mechanic, um, and then like while taking like storyboard like these like fake storyboard tests, the very first storyboard I ever did, I just did for like again for fun because I'm like, okay, well I'm gonna do a storyboard just of my own story because like that just seems like fun, like developing my own like world and characters. So I did. My friend Andres Parada and I, he's a like a music composer. he was the dude I was on tour with, and like we've been friends since forever. He and I came up with like the story, Tennis the Good Boy story. That's now the Nickelodeon short. We came up with it on tour. Like I was just like drawing like characters, and I was like, oh, it'd be funny if there was a world, and like it was like kind of like evolved, like that like naturally evolved on tour. So like that storyboard that I did for that, it was like awful. I did an awful job, but I saw that Nickelodeon was having this like shorts, whatever it's like the shorts program, and it was like this is like in 2016, I think. They had their shorts program, and I was like still living in Tucson. I'm like, oh, you know what? I have this storyboard. I should just like send it in to them. Just like it's a deadline. It's like, hey, you need to send us a storyboard by this time. I'm like, all right, well, it's a deadline. Like it's just more practice. Like I absolutely didn't think it was going to lead to anything. So I sent it to them. Didn't hear back for months or a couple months, and I was like, well, whatever. At least I have this like storyboard I did, and it was like good practice. But then I got an email from them while I was at work. Like, oh, we saw your storyboard. You should come pitch this to us in person. And I remember calling Andy, like, dude, I just got an email. They want us to pitch it in person. And he's like, oh, no fucking way. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I'm moving. I'm done. I'm just gonna like take the leap. I'm leaving Tucson. I'm gonna just go. I'm ready now. Now's the time to strike. So I was like, I quit my job. I like ruined my life a little bit, like. Because like all my friends are in Tucson. I've lived there my whole life. And I was like, I'm gonna move to LA and then I'm gonna pitch this thing. So that was like that was the push for me, like just getting like just a little bit of affirmation from somebody, like somebody else, like someone in the professional world being like, oh, we see you and we'd like to talk to you. Like that was enough for me. And I think that like it was really dumb of me to move to LA having only a meeting set up, like a pitch meeting. I now know that pitch meetings are not like they are really fun, and they're really like special and cool, and like you have to feel very fortunate to have like to have like an executive want to listen to you and like listen to your ideas. But like pitch meetings are like a dime a dozen, and so it's like I cannot tell you how many people I know who like I have a meeting set with this person and this person and this person, and like not to devalue it, but it's like I didn't know that. Like, oh, they want to listen to our pitch. Oh, fuck yeah, man. Game up. This is it. I'm breaking out. They finally know I'm a genius. And then like moved to LA, have no friends, really, no job. And then like 2 weeks later, pitched it to Nickelodeon. And like Andy flew into town, and we like dressed up in our cowboy vests, and we just like wore our boots and our belt buckles and our hats and all this stuff. And then yeah, pitch the whole storyboard like in character, just like, all right, I'll be these two characters, you be these two characters, and we'll pitch it. Yeah, and so I think that like the shorts program reaching out about just a pitch meeting, like that was the final straw for me. I was looking for a reason to like I was looking for any sign from like the outside world, like, Ron, what you're doing, that's the right direction. You should keep going in that direction. I was just like, 1 foot in one world, 1 foot in the other. Like, right. Just like, and I was applying for jobs.
Joke, right?
Say again?
So how did the pitch go? Like, you pitched it, and then you're like standing there all nervous, waiting for the reaction, and there's like a pause. Like, how was that experience, and what did they say? I mean, obviously, The Good Boy is now a short, but
yeah, they were like, I don't know. I didn't know how to read them at the time. I think like now, if I pitched the same thing now, I would like okay, they liked it, he didn't like it, he didn't like it. Let's say it was pretty clear. Like they laughed, like, and like it seemed like they enjoyed it. Given like when you pitch, it's like kind of the executives. It's like they're like almost their job to make you feel like welcome, and it's like their job to laugh at the jokes, even if it's like a polite laughter sort of thing. Like, that was actually something that Mike told me. Like it was like right before I pitched. Like, oh, Mike, I'm so nervous. I had to have him like. I didn't have a printer at my, like, I was subletting some house. I didn't have a printer, so I had to have him print out the storyboard for me. And I had to go pick it up from him. And I was like, I'm so nervous. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. It's funny. Like, they're there to laugh. They're going to laugh at it. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, thank God. Yeah. So yeah, he's very, very sweet about it. And he's like, they're going to laugh. And then like, yeah, once we pitched, like, I kind of like, you into this like weird, like dead zone where you're like, okay, guys, you ready? Here's the first panel. And then like your brain just blanks out and you're like, you come to at the end of it. You're like, I don't know what just happened. You hear like chuckling or whatever, but like the whole time you're just like in this like vortex. But yeah, they didn't say a whole lot about it afterwards, actually. Uh, they're just like, oh, that was super cool. And they asked us some questions about like what would this character be like with this? Like, how would you explain this character? Like, blah blah blah. And they complimented certain things, and like we like they were taking just like pitch after pitch after pitch. It was like literally they were like, I forgot how many people submitted. It was like over 500 people submitted that year. And so like we were just like a pitch among many. So even when we were like waiting in the what you call it, the lobby for our meeting, there's like somebody else waiting, like getting ready for their pitch also. So I was like so nervous. And they looked so much more professional than Andy and I. Were just like these dusty old fucking guys from Tucson and dressed like cowboys. But yeah, so then they it was fine. Like I don't know if like based on the pitch, I would be like, yeah, we nailed it. But I think like afterwards, like we felt like we did a good job with like the performance of it. Since like Andy and I have been performing as a band and doing like comedy stuff together since forever. We just treat it like a performance, which is like, I think it's a good way to treat pitches. It's like, cause you're performing for somebody. You're like, you're being the character for them. So I think we just had fun performing, and then like, it happened to pan out for us. Like, luckily I moved from Tucson, ruined my life a little bit for a little while. Was jobless, pitched, got a job at another bike shop, and then, and then months later, they called, like, I think it's like half a year later, something like that. They called me at work. I'm like, we're gonna make it. And I remember just like screaming at work. I was like,
oh my god!
Like, it was great. It was great.
Well, okay, so like you moved, and then 6 months later, and you're at another bike shop. Like, what kind of like skills or attitude do you need to keep going? Like, everything was like, nothing was really working out for you to go on that career path this whole time, except for Tennis the Good Boy, which thankfully worked out. But all that in between time, like, what was keeping you going? You were still drawing every day, all this stuff, like.
Yeah, still drawing every day. I was still like, at this point, I think I was getting like storyboard tests from people like in like actually testing for shows and stuff. But I certainly wasn't good enough to get a job. So I was just like taking this test, and I'd be like, I did a bad job, I turn it in. And the next test I get like, a little better, still bad, turn it in. And like next one, I'm like, a little better. Like I must have taken like the first year I was here, I think I took some like 10 storyboard tests, none of which got me a job.
Did you ever have a point where you're like really doubting yourself or feeling like a failure like all this time? Like, because I know that's kind of a common thing that I hear from other people. They go through the trenches and they really question whether this is something they're meant to do. But did you ever experience something like that?
Yeah, I remember being like, it's a little disheartening getting like rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. I think the one that really stung for me, I got like I forgot, like the producer or somebody messaged me back, and they're like, hey, it was super close. It was between you and another person. And we went with this other person.
Oh man.
And like that one hurt the worst. That would hurt super bad. And I found out later that like the person they went with was like an old friend of theirs. So I'm like, oh man. Like, oh man. That one hurt. But
when you actually got hired, what like skill did you finally perfect or develop that you think got you there? Like, was it the technicalities of storyboarding? Was it your drawing skills? Was it the pacing? Like,
honestly, so like my first job was it's not at Cartoon Network. It was at a small studio that doesn't exist anymore, actually. And it was for like a Netflix show. And originally they reached out to Gina. So I was like Gina has been an incredible, she's an incredible storyboard artist. She's been like so supportive. Like she was dating me while I was still a bike mechanic. And so I'd like do these board tests. Like, Gina, does this make sense? She's like, oh, you should change this angle or change that. She was super, super helpful. So like the whole time she's being very supportive. But so like the show actually that I first got a job on reached out to her. And then she's like, oh, well, I'm at Disney right now. I can't work on that. But you should talk to Ron because he's looking for work. And so they reached out to me and they looked at my Instagram like, oh, your Instagram's really cool. And they're like, you don't need a test. It's cool. Like, we trust you. And I was like, no,
Oh,
you should.
wow. Hey.
Yeah, but I was like, you should test me. Because I was like unsure of myself. I'm like, no, you should test me. Like, you sure? I'm like, I don't mind. Give me the test. Because it was like also this like action comedy show. So it's like, oh, I've never done action before. Like, let's see how this goes. And so they sent me the test, and like, I guess they liked it. But so they're like, yeah, you have the job. And I was like, no, give me the test. Like, okay, here's the test. And I took the test. I was like, yeah, you still have the job. Like, oh, okay, cool.
You're like trying to like sabotage yourself at that point. You're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was so Dodge and everyone I know was like, Ron, what the fuck are you doing? Just take the job. I was like, I want to earn it. I don't want to just like, I don't want someone to just be like, oh yeah, trust him, it's fine. You know, because I was truly like, so I was like it's like being thrown in the deep end. Like a lot of people, you know, they get like a revisionist position, or they start like as a PA, then they kind of move up, and they move up, and they get a revisionist position, and then they get a storyboard artist job. I went straight from like mechanic to, hey, can you start in a month? Here's your outline, get to it. And so like I wanted to at least show them like, hey, I can draw in, you know, in the key of this show. So I did that.
And just an FYI for those of you who don't know, Gina Gress is the storyboard artist on Star vs. the Forces of Evil.
Yes.
Dodge Greenlee, he's another storyboard artist at Cartoon Network, and you can listen to a podcast of him as well here. So okay, so sorry.
I said he's a sweet boy.
So obviously you have kind of a different path to get into this career, but you must have worked with or seen a lot of people who've gone from school. You know, they come out of high school and they go into traditional animation school, and they come out of that and they get hired. How do you feel? Like, what are your feelings about that path versus the one that you took? Do you feel like you're missing out on certain things? I know you mentioned, you know, life drawing skill is something that you wish you had more of, but what are your overall feelings of going the more traditional career path?
I think that like there's like there's merits for both. I think that like the animation school, like that's the beaten path. That's like, oh, you do this and then you'll probably get a job in animation. I feel like everyone like I get lots of questions from people like online or whatever. It's like, well, what's the magic formula? What do you do to get the job? And like there really isn't a magic formula at all.
Step one, be a bike mechanic.
Be a bike mechanic. Yeah. Step two, like try to go to the aerospace industry, fail,
toil endlessly for 5 years.
Yeah. So I think that school has a lot of worth. Just like you learn a lot of the technical stuff, you learn the figure drawing stuff, like you learn like all of these like really quintessential skills that make like a well-rounded artist. I think one of the most important things that people get out of school is they make connections with other people at that school or people who went to that school. I think like Cal Arts is very famous for this, for like people who go to Cal Arts know other people who go to Cal Arts who hire other people from Cal Arts. So it's very like not just them specifically, but it's just an example. Like, so like if they know like, oh, you went to Cal Arts or you went to, you know, whatever school, like I know that your work, and like usually their work is absolutely, you know, impeccable. So like there's definitely like a lot of folks that come out of school and they're just like animation machines. They're just like so good, so technically proficient. I think that the trade-off though is like for someone like me, like I didn't go to art school, but what I was doing the entire time, like I was doing like performance comedy stuff with my friends. I was touring with a band. I was traveling. I was working on my own projects, like animating my own stuff, and just like kind of like toiling away with like in the rest of my life. Like I was kind of like experiencing things, experiencing life. And like I think that like there's something to be said for like someone who doesn't just like, you know, I turned 18, I'm in school now and now working at animation and I'm 20 or whatever. Like I think there's something to be said for some like people who like have this kind of like repertoire of life experiences that they can draw from, and then like kind of have that influence their writing or their art. I don't think I'd be nearly as interesting of a person or as good at art if I wasn't like not doing art for so long, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it sounds like you also develop like improvisation skills and humor and like I'm at least from what I can see from your work, it sounds like you draw a lot of creativity from your life experiences. I mean, your work is ridiculous and amazing. And
Mm.
my favorite, I know I told you this before, is when you made like mechs with like babies juice lasers. Like I don't know where that came from, but I'm totally into it. But
Yeah.
also sounds like you went to your own school. Like your tests were the storyboard tests, and deadlines were like pitching, and you were practicing every day, like while having a job too. So yeah, I mean, you also developed your own set of skills that became valuable. Sounds like.
Yeah.
So what is your theology? So, okay, so you specialize in storyboarding right now, and you mentioned that when people go into school, they get a wide breadth of skills. So, like, what is your theology on having a very wide range of skills in this career versus focusing on one and mastering it? So, like, say you're like good at a broad range of topics versus like a master at one. Like, do you have experience seeing other people who have skills like that versus yourself or
Yeah, I think so. There certainly are people who are just like, oh, they can do anything. Like, let me think. Like Nick Cross is very much that way. He's like, he can do backgrounds and storyboard and character design. He's just like unstoppable. He's also been working in animation for a long time. But I think that like I think it's really easy for people who are new. They kind of like if I ask them, like, well, what do you want to do in animation? They'll be like, I want to do backgrounds and props and characters and storyboards, and I want to direct. And it's like, well, slow your roll, because when I hear that, what it sounds like to me is like I want to do all these things, but I haven't focused on one enough to be very good at one of them. Um, and that's not to say that it's impossible to be good at all those things. Like I know plenty of artists that are good at all those things, but I think that like if you're trying to get into animation, like knowing what you want to do and then focusing on that one thing. Like for me, it's storyboards. I'd love to do props or backgrounds or something eventually, but like for me, it's storyboards. So the one thing I did was I just did storyboards like day and night. That was actually something else that Mike Chillian told me, and he's like, well, if you want to get into storyboarding, there's no magic trick. It's just you just do storyboards. You have to do them all just constantly. Do like if you have a friend who has an animated short, storyboard it for them for free. Don't just like if you have like if there's anything you can possibly work on for free or whatever, like do it. And I'm not saying like I'm not a proponent of like everyone give your labor away, but like if you can be involved in anything in anyone's project or in your own projects, in the capacity of what you want to do in animation, just do it. Because like the only way you're going to get good at that one thing is by doing that one thing. And I think that if you do get good at like storyboarding, or if you get good at props or design or whatever, I think that like being very good at one absolutely influences the other. So if you're like, I'm a character designer, if you like focus, like you really focus on character design and you like get real good at it, you can probably do props as well. Like if that will like for sure influence your ability to draw props or backgrounds, whatever. Like there's like it kind of like these skills leach out into each other, not always directly. I think that storyboarding is like the one thing that kind of encompasses all of those things, since you have to write and then like you have to design characters sometimes, and like you have to design backgrounds very often. I think that's the one thing that kind of like 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 I know I say focus on one thing, but like storyboarding does kind of make you a jack of all trades a little bit. But I think that if you can be good at all the things, like awesome, then you're a Mozart, you're a genius. You'll put us all to shame. But if you're not like just naturally incredible at all these things, or you find that your skill your skill ceiling is being raised in every category constantly, I would say focus on the thing that you want to do the most. Yeah, that's
cool.
what I'd say.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to bring it back to something you said about feedback. So obviously you had some connections of with industry professionals and they were kind of giving you these tests and helping you with the feedback and developing your skills there. How can like if you're just starting out or if you're trying to get in, where can you find somebody who's going to give you feedback like that? Or how do you even approach getting that feedback? Because at least from my experience before I started school, like art was a very lonely game for me. I didn't really know anybody who was in it. I didn't know any professionals at all, and so I was just kind of like doing my own thing without any feedback. So, do you have advice on how to approach this?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I feel like I lucked out by like playing music with somebody was in the industry. But I think that like in lieu of being able to reach out to professionals, like sometimes like I think you can like sometimes just like kind of reach out online. Like the age of the internet is like this pretty incredible thing where you can just like you can see each other's work and like you can like only like what you do. You just send me a message on Instagram. Like yeah, I feel like not everybody is gonna like give anybody the time of day.
Well, you also mentioned that a lot of you said a lot of people are asking you for advice on how to get there in. So I'm wondering, like, is there a way to approach people like that stands out? Like, what made my message stand out versus like a bunch of other DMs that you got, maybe, you know?
Well, you the way you reached out, it wasn't like you weren't asking for anything. You're just like, yeah, I don't know, it's very normal. You're just like I made some joke, you made a joke to my joke, and I was like, oh, okay, let's riff together for a second. I feel like it can be a little off-putting if it's just like you just like you send a message, you're like, hello, good sir, like what's the formula? Give me the secret formula for the success. And it's like, don't like, I'm sorry, dude, but there isn't A and B. Like that's just not the best way to reach out to people. Also something that like it like pains me to say, but like a lot of times when you get these kinds of questions, it's like people who like just like are not ready to work in the industry, and they're like, well, what's the thing I need to do? And it's like, if you can't see your work and know that it's like not quite to the standard of like what is going to be expected from a studio, like you're probably not ready to work in that studio right now, you know? Which is painful to hear. But like I was that person for so long. I was like, oh, I'm so sure. Look at these cool drawings. And it's like, and like I was blind to the possibility that I just wasn't good enough yet. And then like years later, I'm like, oh well, now I can kind of hang. But back then, not so much. Yeah, that's a hard one. Reaching out to people that like cold calling people is not usually, it's a little frowned upon, but like I think like like people like me or Dodge or Gina, like we're not like hyper famous folks. There's like we're just like regular people. Like most people who just like have a job in have like they're just a storyboarder or just a character designer on like whatever show. Like a lot of times they'll give you the time of day. If you send them like a well thought out like nice email, like I think as long as it's not like, or message on Instagram, whatever it is, like yeah, as long as it's not just like, dear sir, what is formula? Like a lot of times, like sometimes I can't reply to like all the questions. Not that I get like so many questions, but so popular. But like when people send me like really well thought out, like, hey, I saw this and like I've been working on this thing in my portfolio. Like, could you like let me know like what I could work on with this? I'm just like, oh yeah, absolutely. If you're asking me for specifics, sure, I can for sure give you some specifics on like what you'd like to know. But like asking these like huge questions, like how do you get into animation, like kind of like out of nowhere, then someone's like, I don't have the time to write like,
right.
Well, at the beginning there was an explosion in the universe, and then life came. Like, starting at the beginning is a little difficult. Again, kind of a roundabout answer, but
no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like you mentioned something that I think is really valuable. I think a lot of people try to reach out to those celebrities in animation. I know I have in pursuing this podcast, and 90% of the time there's no response because these people are just bombarded. They don't have the time. But I think people forget that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people who aren't like have their own Wikipedia page about directing their own films over the decade or whatever that they've been in animation, who are super willing to help out and are just as valuable skills as those people too. Like you said yourself, like we just connected over a joke and now we're doing a podcast together, and you're just like spewing out the naked man diarrhea facts and wisdom into this talk.
I'm a rambler.
So really, that's fine.
If I know anything about myself, is that I ramble.
Hey, I'm enjoying it. It's all good. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about Tennis the Good Boy, just to get like a sense of what it's like at Nickelodeon and like how involved were you in the production? Like, so you pitched the show and then they're like, "Yep, we're making it. Okay, bye. See you when it's done." Or were you in the studio every day? Like, can you talk
Uh,
about that experience?
yeah, I think it's different for for everybody who goes through development. But so the other creator, Andres and I, um, we were like super involved like throughout the entire process. Like like we like wrote the thing together. I storyboarded it. I did all the designs, like all the initial designs, all the initial background designs. And then like so we'd probably have to go into Nickelodeon like every couple of weeks, every month or so. We come in and like, okay, we need to have a meeting about this one aspect, like character designer. Like, okay, cool, let's go have a meeting with character designers. And then this whole time, like I have like he and I have day jobs, so like I have to like take time off my day job to come have like take the day off to go have like a half an hour or hour meeting with about like whatever it is. So like there's like a ton of just like these like like ton of check-ins. There's like, okay, what about backgrounds now? Okay, cool, here's background. Well, what about the line weight for characters? All right, here's another meeting. Like, what about the color for characters? And it's like, I think sometimes people are just like, yeah, you guys take care of it. But Andy and I were very like almost obsessively, like no, we weren't overbearing at all, but we were very very involved. Even the people who like worked in development were like, yeah, you guys are very very involved in the simple process. Sometimes
You
like you
still
guys like
showing
have
up in your cowboy outfit every time you went in?
nah, not always. No, sometimes you like in hoodies and be lazy. Eat the free food they have there because we're
Nice.
both broke though.
Oh my gosh. Were they paying you during this process too? Like every time you came in,
um,
or like for the overall show, or is this
Oh no, yeah, not every time we came in. It's like you get paid. It's like a lump sum kind of thing. It's not very much. It's like you don't do it. It's not a job. It's not absolutely not a job. It's a lot of work, but it's not like it wasn't paying any bills. Um, so yeah, we were very involved. Like we did like yeah, we were like in like personally in touch with like the background designer, the character designer. Andy and I, mostly Andy, he did the music for it. Um, and like yeah, we just like and we did like we had like lots of meetings just like with like the sound effects people. Like we had a really particular idea for sound effects, and we like tried to record our own like Foley with like we got these old ribbon mics from like the 40s. We rented like all this crazy old gear because we wanted to sound like an old radio play. Um, we did all this experimenting in the Nickelodeon like sound booth, and then we were there for like all the like every single like person who tried out for the like for any of the roles. We were there for every single one of them, gave them all notes. We were there for every record. Like it was our life for like it took a long time. Like when we pitched it in 2016, came out last year, came out in 2018. So like from start to finish, it took 2 years, and it's only 3 minutes long. Um,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
Um,
that sounds like so much fun though.
oh, it was so much fun. Oh, especially the voice acting stuff. Oh my gosh, it's if you write like we'd write some lines and like Dana Snyder was the voice of Dijon, and he would just like, oh, let me try one. And he just like come up with just the funniest fucking thing. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, and that was actually the moment I realized that like that um, like voice acting was like a real job. I think everyone's like, I want to do cartoon voices. Like, I got a lot of emails from people like when we are getting a short, people are like, let me be a voice, let me be a voice. And then like even Andy and I are like, well, we want to be voices in our cartoon. But then seeing actual voice actors, you're like, oh no, we have no fucking idea what we're doing. These are professionals. Like you give them some convoluted like note, like make it sound like there's more wet pizza in your mouth, and they'll be like, okay, I'll internalize that, and they'll do the version. It sounds like wet pizza mouth, and uh, like it's it seems like a hard job, and people who are good at it are like incredible. I have so much respect for them now.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about your current role at Cartoon Network. What's it like being a artist now? I mean, before you said the dream wasn't to work away, get the job, and die. It was more about the process and enjoying it. So what's it like day to day as a storyboard artist at Cartoon Network?
It's interesting. It's like it's very like the days when you're drawing and then like you draw some face, you write some joke, and you make yourself laugh, or I'm like I show it to my board partner, I'm like, is this funny? And then they laugh. You're like, oh, thank God. It just feels so good when you like, and then like, yeah, if you make yourself giggle and you're just like, I'm getting paid for this. This is so good. This is wonderful. And then the flip of that is like when you have like, a ton of notes and you're like, oh man, I gotta change the screen direction, all this stuff. They have to come in from the left and not the right. Where does the door go? Like, yeah, like it's like this like interesting blend of like just complete bliss and utter soul crushing monotony.
Wow.
But I mean, as is any job. I mean, like there's that saying where it's like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's like, no.
Except for the
Like,
soul crushing monotony.
there's an Overwatch coach recently that said like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's more like, do what you love and you'll work every day for the rest of your life.
Okay.
But no, it's honestly, it's so wonderful. Even on my worst day, I'm just like, oh, I got so many notes. Like, what am I gonna do? It's really good to remind myself, like, dude, you're drawing children's content. You're drawing content that's gonna be on television that makes children laugh. Like, what are you doing? You were trying to get a job at a missile plant like 2 years ago. Pump the brakes a little bit. I was like, all right, yeah, I need to chill. Yeah, it's yeah, sorry. I feel like it's another roundabout answer, but it's great. Storyboarding's great. Get into it, guys.
That's awesome. Okay. So at what point are you free to work on the storyboard? Is it once you get the script in your hand, or are you? Because I know with the interview with Dodge Greenlee, he said that storyboard artists at Cartoon Network have a lot of story freedom and writing freedom. So at what point do you start boarding something?
Yeah, so we get like we have a handout meeting where they give us the outline. The outline's usually 2.5, 3 pages long. It's just like the bare bones of the story. It's like this character does this character does this, and it's just like the beats the story. Usually there's no dialogue in it. So then we so your board partner and you will then like take the outline and you kind of like look at it and you'll break it apart. Like, okay, well the arc for this character is this. This is this character's arc. Okay, here's the through line. Let's and give it this sort of spin. And sometimes like you'll come up with jokes together, like, oh, yeah, that'd be funny if he did that, or that'd be super funny if she did this. And then like you usually you'll split up the outline. Some people like to leapfrog, like, oh, I'll take this scene, this scene, this scene, you take the rest. Or some people like to split it in half down the middle of Act 2. Some people like to do, I'll do Act 1 and 3, and you do Act 2. Act 2 is usually a little more difficult than Act 1 and 3. So yeah, you kind of break it apart, and then like with outline driven show, you kind of just have to sit on it for a day or a couple days. You just like you kind of like write out like your dialogue, or you have like just like you have just like post-it notes all over your desk, like little bits of dialogue. For me, I have like these like little books I get from Muji. They have like these tiny like blank squares. They're like perfect for storyboarding. And it's like, yeah, what I'll do is I'll have my outline, then like in the margins I'll write like, okay, this character feels like this, and here's a joke I wrote, here's a joke I wrote, here's a joke I wrote, and I'll just like take that and I'll go to like a cafe or something and just like with my little storyboard book and like just draw like the crappiest version of a scene. I won't do like every pose for like the whole like half episode, but like, okay, this scene, this is the first shot of that scene, it's composed like this. So the next scene composed like this, and I'll just like kind of like compose the shots first, and then not everybody works like this, but I'll do like the shots and then the character says this and he's sad, then he fist pumps in the air out of anger. And then like when I do that, then I'll go into the computer and start to kind of like transfer my crappy drawings over and like redraw them in the computer as like on the Cintiq as like easier to read thumbs, and then like that's kind of when the dialogue starts to form in my mind. Like a lot of people, like I think Dodge, like he'll write like a script before he starts boarding. For me, it's like it's not. I work the opposite. I'm like visual first, and then that kind of informs the dialogue. I'm like, oh well, this character. Now if I draw like a really funny, like weird, like some like off model face, where you're like, oh, she looks really weird and jealous, but like what would she be saying with that face? Like, oh, she'd say it's like this, whatever. So that's one way to do it. Another way is like, yeah, you get your outline, you break it apart with your board partner, and then you kind of then you just sit down. I think Gina works this way too, and just like write a script, like write a complete script out, and then you can like figure out, well, I can cut this scene, or I can like punch this scene up, punch this scene up, punch this scene up, and then you start thumbing. But I do it a little backwards for sure.
So first you kind of like freehand doodle your notes and things, and then you put it on the Cintiq and thumbs, and then you do the storyboard after that?
Yeah, so like drawing, like doing the thumbs tiny is really important, because then like you don't get obsessed with super like details. So you just like you draw like the crappiest version possible with like it's something actually like another board I was taught me was like you get your post-it notes, you get a big fat Sharpie, and you just like you draw like that. So it's like you cannot focus on details. It's just like, yeah, the big lump is that character, the small lump is that character. So then yeah, like I do the crappy thumbs in the Cintiq, like on the computer, and then what happens is like you thumb out the entire episode, and then we combine, like then you and your board partner kind of combine them and see like, okay, well this doesn't match up, let's like change the dialogue here. And at this point it's usually like very rough. It's super rough. The dialogue is not like at all really figured out. It's just like kind of placeholder where it's like, instead of like the exact lines, like character gets mad or whatever, you write that in. And then we pitch it to, like at that point we pitch it to all the writers and the showrunner and the creator, and then they kind of sit on it and like, okay, well this part of the story isn't working, or this is working, or this joke fell flat or whatever. So like after we like we give them like a very rough version, then we all get together and kind of like sit down and break it apart and figure out like, okay, well what can we pull out, what can we punch up, what did we do right, what did we do wrong, and then after they give us all those notes, then we go back to our office, sit in our little like storyboard cave, and then, you know, spend the next like week or so, or whatever time we have allotted, just like fixing it and like doing like their notes and doing, you know, punching stuff up that they wanted, or like figuring out like, okay, well like the through line of this character wasn't obvious, let's flush that out. It's still usually pretty rough at this point too. And then we pitch it again, and then we get more notes. And then you go back and you do the same thing, and then you pitch it again, but to everybody, like the whole crew. And at this point, on the third pitch, it's supposed to be cleaned up, but not always.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess once it's approved, who do you hand it off to?
Once we get like our last round of notes, you pitch it to the whole crew. It's pretty cleaned up. And it kind of just gets like shot into the void, honestly. It's like, here you go. And it's like, you know, blah, blah, blah. The universe takes it. Usually the writers and like the showrunner and the creator will like punch it up a little bit. And then they send it to the executives. The executives look over it. They give their notes like, okay, well, we prefer to see this character not be so aggro the whole time, or whatever it is. Or sometimes they give very few notes. And then S&P gives their notes like, okay, you can't say murder in a kid's show or whatever, like things like that. And then like at this point, like we don't, like my board partner and I we don't see it again for like a while. And then like they get notes and they give it to a revisionist who does the notes, and it's kind of like bounces back and forth between like a revisionist, storyboard supervisor, showrunner. It bounces back and forth and bounces back to the executives, back to us, and it's just like. And then once it gets all figured out, the executives are like, it's great, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Then
it goes to animation department?
Not really. Then you start having like design breakdown meetings where like we have our design department. It's like, okay, well, there's this new background in this scene. We need to have a meeting about this background, or there's this new prop that needs to get designed. Yeah, it's a very arduous process. So yeah, after it gets all these like, you know, it's like pitch after pitch after pitch after approval after disapproval after approval. Yeah, then the designers get to start working on these like special elements for the episode, because you have to figure that stuff out before you ship it, because like the animation studio is not like the board. It'll have some like wonky drawing where it's like, it's a rectangle and it's like lumpy, and it's like, well, it's supposed to be a desk. Like, okay, and then but if you send just this wonky rectangle drawing overseas, they're gonna animate a wonky rectangle. So you have to have somebody who's typically better at drawing than the board artist. You have to have them go through and like, okay, well, here's exactly what that desk looks like, and they make that a thing for the animation studio.
Is any of the animation actually done in your offices, or it's all sent overseas?
Not all of it. Like sometimes there's like really special, like a dance scene. There's like a sequence of there's this character like doing a little jig or things that are like really delicate and need the touch of someone who's just gonna sit there and like really pose it out and really figure it out. That sort of stuff will get done in the studio by like the storyboard supervisor or and like and revisionist and the showrunner. But generally, overseas is going to be animating everything. Like we just do like the key poses and the overseas folks like know to do all the in betweens and hook everything up.
Cool. I'm still interested in like what it's like at Cartoon Network. So like, what is it like at Cartoon Network? If you could sum it up into like one sentence or even just one word, like you spent so long trying to get in and now you're finally in, and what's it like?
I never like one word, just one word.
Okay, 2 words, a sentence, just your overall feelings.
It's great. Honestly, I really enjoy it. It's just like this really like interesting blend of like professionalism and like still very like not in a demeaning way, but like still very like childish at heart. Like there's like an arcade, there's like there's a Switch, there's a Nintendo Switch and a PS4 and all this crazy stuff on our floor, and there's like a candy dispenser. It's like all these children who like grew up who now work in animation. It's like kids who never grew up basically. And it's like very like I at no point do I come into the office and be like, oh man, harumph, I'm in the office. It's like my office is like I have like my walls are covered in art of like my favorite artists in the world, some of which work there. And it's very inviting. It's very inviting. Just as a studio in general, I really enjoy it. They're very like it's nice because like if you want to be left alone, you can close your door. No one talks to you. People just leave you be, and you're like a little creativity cave. But if you want to go out and like bug somebody else, some other crew or some other some other show, you can. And everyone seems very everyone's real cool. Everyone's really nice. I haven't met anybody I don't like there.
Okay. I forgot to ask you, what shows are you working on right now?
I cannot say.
I know, but can you? What were you working on before, maybe, just to give an idea of what you've boarded and what you've been involved in?
The last show I was on was called 12 Forever.
12 Forever.
Yeah, I don't think it's out yet.
And now you're working on a super secretive project, I know.
Super secret project.
Right. Awesome. Well, you're a storyboard artist now. What's next for you? Or like, what's your biggest challenge, or what do you foresee in your future if you look into a crystal ball?
Crystal ball. Let me think. What would I like to do? I kind of would like to try drawing props. Honestly, I love drawing just like things. I love storyboarding because I get to I get to be the control freak. Like, no, I control the laughter. It's mine. but like being a prop designer sounds like it's pretty chill. Just like, yeah, man, I'll design a spaceship. Cool. But other than that, like I think in the future I'll probably pitch some more stuff. I'll probably like I have some like ideas for other shows, like other shorts and other shows I want to do other than tennis. I'll probably pitch those around. That's something that's like been really helpful. Like having like made tennis and having worked in like a professional capacity as a storyboard artist, I've kind of gotten like I know like I gave you like a very general gross like this is the pipeline like sort of breakdown. Like I have like understood like what like the design pipeline, like what the development pipeline is like, kind of like from beginning to end, which has been super helpful, and I think it'd be like very informative for like what I would pitch next. And I think everyone's like, I want to have my own show at some point, but I think that'd be great. I would love to have my own show at some point. I want to control all the laughs. They're mine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of sums up everything that I wanted to ask you. So unless there's like some like final wisdom you'd like to bestow on us or something you'd like to talk about, or feel free to just jump in right now.
Final wisdom. I think if I could tell anyone in the world right now who wants to get into animation, I get this question all the time. It's like, what's the secret? Like, how do you do it? There's no secret. There's no secret. You just have to do what you want to do as much as possible, and you'll probably be successful if you get good at it and you just stick to it. Additionally, I think I think you asked a question like last time we talked about like developing your own thing and like what that's like to like, pitch stuff. If you're going to pitch to people, develop something that you would want to make. Like something that like you're happy working on in your free time, something that you could animate yourself even. Like I feel like people have this idea of like, I'm going to make this opus and it's going to be Avatar again, The Last Airbender again. And like, those shows are like incredible and so beautiful, but like I feel like when people pitch ideas that they think that other people are going to like, they inevitably, I think they don't work as well. It's like just create things that like write what and create the thing that you would want to work on, and then like inevitably it will probably be very good because like you'll give like a real portion of yourself to it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I think that's good advice. And I think, a lot of people are like, oh, I think everybody would love this idea, when, like you said, maybe you should just do the thing that you would love to make. I mean, after all, I think that's why people go into the animation industry, because the more people I talk to, it's more of like a personal passion of just the love of the craft, rather than like trying to impress other people with what they think is what they want to see, or a good career or something like that.
Yeah. Like I said, the best part about my day is when I make myself laugh. I'm sitting down like, that is a funny joke. Like that's just the best feeling. It's the best feeling.
Yeah, I can just picture you sitting in your desk chuckling to yourself. It's great.
Yeah. What a wonderful world.
What a wonderful world. Well, thank you so much, Ron. I won't take up any more of your time. I really enjoyed this chat, and I'm very thankful that you came on and did this with me. I think it was very insightful and valuable. And thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man. Sorry I ramble, but hey.
Don't apologize.
It's the real deal, brother.
Yeah, well, just before we go, I want to share how you can get in touch with Ron, and that's simply by going to his Instagram, Ghost Beef Comics, which I will link in the description. I'll also link his Tennis the Good Boy short as well. It's on Nickelodeon's YouTube channel. And that's all for now. Okay, bye.
Bye.